welcome back to Financially Fluent with Jackie. I am your host, Jackie Mutuma. I welcome you all this day, and I'd like us to get into the business of the day. So, welcome to March. We just started the month of March, and so I decided I'm going to have a different theme for every month, but then I'll arrange them in such a way that you'll be able to flow. For instance, the theme that I'll have for April will complement the theme that we had for March, or the theme that we currently have for March. So make sure you stick with me, grab a pen, grab a book, and let's get into learning. And why are we learning about finance? It's simply because, as we all know, when you're building a house, the foundation is usually the most important. The foundation takes up a lot of materials, it takes up a lot of time. So the foundation, building the foundation or laying or setting the foundation is actually the hardest part of building a house. Because as soon as you have your foundation laid out, then putting the rest of the house up is just, it's simpler, it's easier than the foundation. And that is why, if we get our financial foundation right, if we have our mindset shifted towards the right direction, then that is the first step towards our wealth creation. And that is why we are here, all of us, this day. It's because we want to build our wealth. Our end goal is wealth building, right? So let's get into it. So this month of March, we are going to dive into foundations of financial success. Foundation. So we are going to start from the bottom, going all the way up. We first have to understand what financial success is, what financial freedom is, what mindset are we supposed to have, so that we can start creating or building our wealth. Okay, so our main focus will be on three main areas this month. That is basics of personal finance, that is money management, and financial mindset. Okay, so today I'd like us to start with budgeting and saving. I'm so sure if I asked you, all of you right now, do you know what a budget is? Yeah, you'd probably say yes, I do know what a budget is. And you probably tell me a budget is planning your money or putting your money how it should be. But do you know what constitutes a budget? Do you know what are the components of a budget? Do you know why we budget? Do you know how to budget? Do you know that there's a correlation between budgeting and saving? And saving is also the first step towards investing. You cannot invest if you have not saved. You first have to save. You must have some savings, so that through those savings you're able to invest, and through that investing you're able to build your portfolio slowly, gradually building your wealth. Okay, so I'll start with budgeting. In budgeting, it's a process of creating a plan for how you'll spend your money. And one of the best way to not forgetting whatever it is you studied is by noting it down. That is why I said grab a pen and grab a book. Take some short notes, okay? Refer back to them. You're not referring because you're going to sit for an exam, but you're referring so that you can be able to apply whatever we are learning in your day-to-day lives, okay? So, as I said, a budget is a process of creating a plan for how you'll spend your money, okay? And why do we budget? We budget so that we are able to live within our means. Most of us live beyond our means, and that is not a very good strategy if you're striving to build your wealth. You have to live within your means. We budget also so that we can be able to prioritize our financial goals, and this includes our long and short-term goals, okay? And then we also budget to avoid unnecessary debt. And in this case, unnecessary debt is particularly the consumable debt. Consumable debt is debt that we take up to pay things that do not mature or do not yield returns in future, okay? So what is a budget? A budget generally is a financial plan that outlines your income and expenses over a specific period, for example, in a monthly basis. So a budget outlines your income, what you've gotten, versus your expenses. How have you spent what you've gotten? And it's usually within a specified period, and most budgets usually run for a month. Okay. And then our budget covers our needs, our wants, our savings, and investments. These are the three areas that are usually in our budgets. So let us look at some four importances of budgeting. Okay, you must have a reason for everything that you're doing. Otherwise, you start and then within no time it's going to collapse because you didn't have a reason. So our reasons, we are going to get them from the importances of budgeting. And the first importance I have here is financial control. Through budgeting, you're able to prevent overspending and you're able to track where your money goes. That is financial control. Remember in the previous video, I said you have to learn to control your money before your money controls you. Okay? And then number 2 is for debt management. Obviously, we budget so that we are able to pay our bills on time and also our debts. I did say that we have consumable debts, but other than consumable debts, we also have debts that are good. Debts that you take up a debt, you invest it somewhere, it gives you a return that you're able, through that return, you're able to pay off your debt and still have some income left over for your personal use. And a good example of this is you taking a debt and building commercial houses or rentals, okay? Through those rentals, maybe the rentals are giving you 100,000 per month, and the debt that you took, you're repaying it at 50,000 a month. So you see, you're able to offset your debt and still remain with half the amount of money for your future investments or for your income, for your spending. Okay, that is a good debt, and we are going to look at some examples of that as we progress on. As I said, we're starting with the foundations. Let us first get to understand the basics of finance, and then we'll move on to chewing the maize later. Okay, we'll move on to the harder things as we progress on. And then number 3 is wealth building. We budget so that we are able to build our wealth, and this is through the allocation of funds to savings and investments. Okay, if you budget, you put a portion of your money to savings and investments. Those savings, they're the ones that are going to help you to invest and gradually build your wealth. Okay. And number 4, obviously we budget so that we can have a reduction in stress, so that we can have stress reduction. Personally, I believe there is nothing as painful as you just got your income, and then 1 week down the line, after you just got, especially if you're employed, 1 week down the line, you don't have your transport to go to work. And I can relate to this because I have been there at some point. Okay? And it's usually because of mismanagement, not budgeting, or you're spending your money on things that do not matter. And this is where a budget comes in. It will help you to spend your money on the things that actually do matter. Okay? So what constitutes a budget? What are the components of a budget? Number 1, we have income. And income is in a form of so many things. If you're employed, income is in form of salary. We have side hustle earnings. Yes, if you're there and you do sell smokies and smochas, okay, that is a side hustle, but to you it is your business. Maybe you're there, you're a hawker, that is your business. Okay, it's not even a side hustle because you're doing it full day. But if you're there, you're employed, and maybe you have a skill in web design, you create websites for companies, that is a side hustle. The income that you're getting from your side hustle, you're supposed to combine it with your salary and then come up with a budget that constitutes both incomes, one budget. But I'll give you a small template, a small example of a budget, and you'll see that in that template, your income, you have to write your primary income, and then you have to add any other income that you might be having, and then you have your total income, and that total income is what you use to budget. Okay, so components of a budget, number one, we've said, is income. Number two is expenses. And under expenses, we have different types of expenses. We have fixed expenses. We have irregular expenses. I'm sorry. We have variable expenses. So what are fixed expenses? Fixed expenses are constant every month. What are these things that are constant every month? Things like your rent. That does not change unless you move to a different house. Your rent doesn't change. Your loan repayments, these ones usually do not change unless maybe the interest goes up or comes down. That is the only time that it will change. Or maybe you do a top up. Obviously, you'll pay more than what you are paying. Okay. Insurance premiums, these are fixed expenses. And then we also have variable expenses. And variable expenses, they change from month to month. Okay. And a good example is utilities. Your utilities change. Maybe last month you had visitors over to your house, so the water was highly spent, as compared to this month when you do not have visitors. The water bill from last month and this month won't be the same. So utilities are variable. Your transport can also be variable, because let's say maybe you started the month of March, you started with a new resolution: I want to cut some weight. How will I achieve cutting some weight? I have to work from point A to point B, then get a public vehicle from point B to point C. Okay, so you'll notice that in this particular month you're going to use less transport than you used last month. So your transport is also variable. Groceries are also variable, especially for the women. We usually have these groups where you come together like 5 people, you buy food in bulk. So you'll notice that maybe the food that you bought last month will take you for like 3 months. So for 3 months, your groceries expense will be so low. And then you find in the 4th month, your groceries expense is a bit high because you have to spend a lot of money, okay? So number 3, we have irregular expenses. These are not regular, but they are recurring. And a good example is maybe an annual insurance payment or car maintenance. Car maintenance is also irregular. It is not done regularly, but it does come up every now and then. We also have medical bills. Medical bills are also irregular because you never anticipate a sickness or an illness. It just pops and you have to spend money depending on all that. So I also put down under the expenses savings and investments, and I'll tell you why. You have to treat your savings and investments as an expense, so that when you're planning for your other expenses, you can also get to plan for it as well. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you're going to end up doing it as a by the way, and you will never accomplish it. You'll never accomplish your savings goals. So I personally put it under expenses, so that you can see the seriousness in it, so that you can plan for it. Okay, let's continue. What are some of the budgeting methods that we have? We have the first one, the 3 jars rule, that is very common. This is the 50, 30, 20% rule, whereby we allocate our 50% to our needs, we allocate our 30% to our wants, and we allocate, okay, it's 50, 30, 20. But personally, I like to divide it into 50, 30, 10, 10, whereby 50% is our needs, 30% is our wants, 10% is our savings and investments or debt repayment, and the other 10% is your tithe. The Bible says, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, give to God what belongs to God. We should always remember that it's by His grace and by His strength that we are able to do the works, the different jobs that we are doing. Okay? So whenever you get your pay, if you cannot budget for 90%, then trust you me, you can also not budget for if you cannot, okay, let me repeat this. If you cannot budget 90%, you also cannot budget 100%. And I like to say, I'd rather have my 90%, I'd rather spend my 90% guided and directed by the Holy Spirit, rather than spend my 100% on my own knowledge, because I will end up misusing that money in a way that I did not even anticipate. So I'm sorry, I know I added a bit of preaching, but anyway. So yeah, that's 50, 30, 10, 10 percent rule. Okay. And then the second method of budgeting is the zero-based budgeting. And what is the zero-based budgeting? Zero-based budgeting is a budget whereby you allocate each and every shilling, each and every dollar of your money, you allocate a purpose for it, such that you make sure there is not $1, not one shilling that is lingering, that doesn't have a job. If you find you've allocated your money, everything, and you have some left over, you'd rather take that leftover and put it in your savings account. If you've allocated everything, you put your money in your ones, you've deducted your money for your entertainment, for your shopping, for your eating out, and you notice that you have some left over, then you'd rather take that money to your savings. Okay. And then there is the envelope system. Yes, the very famous envelope system, the one that our grandparents and our parents used to use back then. Yeah. So the envelope system is whereby you use an envelope to allocate money for each category. So maybe you have an envelope for rent, you have an envelope for groceries, and whenever money in a particular envelope is finished, they would usually stop spending in that category. If it was money for going out and the money has depleted at halfway the month, then that means the remaining part of the month, until they can get the next income, there is no more going out. So whenever a money in a certain envelope, in a certain category is finished, spending in that category also stops there for that particular month. Okay. And then I put an NB here. I wrote in all these three methods: ensure you pay yourself first. And paying yourself first means that you put money in your savings first. You make sure that the 10% for your savings, that is the first thing you're removing. Okay, that is the first thing that you are removing, and then you proceed to portioning the other 50, 30, 10%. Because if you do the other way around and you the 10% for your savings, you start with the 50%, 30%, you've removed your type, and then you're saying, oh, I'll save, I'll invest as the last option. You'll end up not investing. Trust me, I know you can all relate with this. You'll end up not investing. Okay. And then how do we create a budget? And number one, calculate all your income. So this means all the sources whereby you get your income, calculate, note them down, and then list all your expenses, the fixed, the variables, the irregulars. So first you calculate all your income, and then list all your expenses. Okay. And then number three, categorize your expenses. You categorize them into needs, into wants, and into savings. And there is a very thin line between needs and wants, because most people put some wants in the needs. Going out is not a need, it's a want. Shopping is not a need, it's a want. Dining out is not a need, it's a want. Needs are the things that we basically cannot go another day without. Things like food, shelter is your rent. Transport is also a need, because in as much as it is a need, because if you are going to work and you do not put money for your transport and you have to use a vehicle, maybe you have to fuel your car or you have to use a public means, then how else are you going to get to work? Okay. And then number four, track your spending. After you've allocated you've calculated your income, you've listed all your expenses, you've categorized your expenses, now the income has come. I want you to track how you're using that money. I want you to track, is the amount of money that I put under my needs, is that what I spent on my needs, or did I end up using more? So you track your spending. And then number five, you adjust where necessary. If you realize maybe you put extra money in a category that did not need that much money, avoid unnecessary spending. And if you also notice that you put less amount of money in a category that requires a lot of money, also make sure you adjust where necessary. Okay, those are the 5 steps to creating a budget. So I don't want this video to be so long. I said we're going to do budgeting and saving, but let's do budgeting for today. And then, because I'll be posting 3 times in a week, and then the next time we're going to do on saving, and then we are going to see the correlation between budgeting and saving. Okay, so allow me to stop there for today. Thank you so much for all of you who've stayed till the end. I'm hoping that this is going to be a very educative journey for all of us. And as you grow, I also grow, because doing all this research is not a joke, but I'm so excited about it. It's just this, and I'm hoping that we are going to go nicely and smoothly. So until next time, stay blessed, keep learning, also do some more research if you can, and I'll see you next time. Bye.